ready to go? Right. Thank you, councillors. If you take your seats, please. Thank you. Good evening. Before we start the meeting, may I inform members, officers and the public that we are not expecting a fire drill today, but in the event of a fire alarm ringing, please do not exit via the lifts, but use the stairs via one of the main fire exits at either end of the chamber or the public gallery. I would also politely ask you to turn off your mobile phones and any other electronic devices or switch them to silent. Thank you. I would now like to formally open the council meeting. I would be grateful if all contributions can be concise and that the various time limits for speeches are respected. Can I clarify that for all items, apart from the approval of the minutes, where a vote is required to be taken, this will be taken using the electronic voting devices. I would also like to remind all members that should they leave the chamber during the debate of any item, they should satisfy themselves that they have heard enough of the debate to vote in an instructive manner. Furthermore, depending on the length of time of the meeting, it is important that should we break, councillors return to the meeting at the allotted time in order that we can promptly recommence the meeting. Thank you. Right. Agenda item 1, apologies. Are there any apologies for absence? Councillor Mark Rowley.
Thank you, Chair. I've got apologies from Councillors Edwards, Bell, North, Deering, Pentland, Eakins and Kevin Watts.
Thank you. Councillor Ross Armour.
Thank you, Chair. We have apologies from Councillors Anslow, Sims, Zoe McGee and McEwen.
Thank you. Councillor Emily Fedorovich, please.
Thank you, Chair. There's no apologies from the Green Alliance Group. Thank you.
Thank you. And Councillor Sedwin Brown.
Thank you, Chair. There's no apologies from the Alliance Group. Thank you.
Thank you.
Independent.
Are there any other apologies to be recorded? Okay. No. Thank you. We move on to agenda item 2, minutes of the previous meeting. The next item is the minutes of the meeting held on the 25th of January 2024 and also the meeting held on the 22nd of February 2024. It has been brought to my attention that there are 2 minor errors in respect of the minutes for the 22nd of February, with the misspelling of Councillor Prentice's forename in minute 307, and that the mover of the Green Alliance amendment in minute 309 should read as Councillor Hakewill rather than Councillor Fedorovich. Can I ask, are there any other issues in relation to the accuracy of the minutes? Okay. In that case, subject to those amendments, I would like to move the minutes of the council meetings held on 25th of January 2024 and 22nd of February 2024. May I please see a seconder? Councillor Lorman, thank you. Can I see all those in favour, please, of accepting the minutes? Thank you. Anyone against? Oh. Any abstentions? One abstention. Okay, thank you. Right, item 3 on the agenda, declarations of interest. Are there any declarations of interest that councillors wish to make related to any item to be discussed? Okay, thank you. Item 4, Chairman's announcements. On the civic front, the role continues to be very busy. 2 notable events have taken place. Firstly, a royal visit to Wellingborough to recognise the work carried out by the charity Off the Streets, who aim to eradicate knife crime in Northamptonshire. It was a privilege, along with our Chief Executive, to greet Her Royal Highness Princess Anne. The Princess Royal was able to meet with activists and hear of the outstanding work they are doing in local communities, educating parents, children and young people on the devastation knife crime causes and building a safer future for our children and young adults. The Princess Royal also graciously presented awards to local people who had actively given support to promote Off the Streets objectives. Secondly, on the 3rd of March, I had the honour of representing this council at a service of installation and welcome of the Right Reverend Deborah Mary Sellin as the 39th Bishop of Peterborough, which took place in Peterborough Cathedral. She was installed by the Archdeacon of Canterbury in front of a packed cathedral and was greeted by civic and ecclesiastic representatives from across Northamptonshire, Cambridge and Rutland. I'm sure we all join in wishing Bishop Debbie a long and successful tenure in her new role. To highlight just a few other events over recent weeks, I have represented this council at Holocaust services in Kettering and in Rushden. I've also enjoyed the County Swimming Championships in Corby, a Valentine's dinner in Rushden, an excellent night at the Opera in Thrapston, a celebration of the annual Indian Republic Day by the Hindu Association in Wellingborough. My Vice Chairman has attended events in Corby, Wellingborough, Stamford and Raunds. I'm grateful to the Vice Chairman for her support to ensure we are able to cover as many engagements as possible. We look forward to continuing to get out and about in the community in the coming weeks. Thank you. Moving on, I would like to welcome members of the public to the meeting, including those making statements, and we don't actually have anyone in the public gallery. May I remind those that for your safety to remain seated and only stand when walking to your seat and exiting the gallery. I think that is it. Okay, can we now please move on to item 5, the leader's announcements. May I please see the leader to make any announcements?
Thank you, Madam Chair. As many of you know, tomorrow is International Women's Day. This day marks not only achievements and progress of women worldwide, but also serves as a poignant reminder of the road ahead in pursuing gender equality. As leader of the Council, I wanted to address you ahead of this significant day. Gender equality is not merely a matter of social justice. It's a foundation upon which a fair, inclusive and prosperous society is built. Our commitment to gender equality reflects our dedication to upholding the principles of equality and equity, justice for all members of our community. Throughout history, women have been the backbone of societies, pioneering change and driving progress. Despite this, the struggle for equal rights, opportunities and representation persists. As a father to Michaela and Holly, my 2 daughters, and a beautiful granddaughter, Ruby, it's always been important to me to instill an attitude that just because you're a girl, you can't or shouldn't do something. I have always encouraged them to feel no limitations to what is possible. They've grown up to be inspiring, intelligent and amazing young ladies, of which I'm incredibly proud. And I'm sure so will Ruby as she journeys on into her life. Tomorrow provides the opportunity to mark progress in breaking down the barriers that hinder women full participation in all aspects of public life. I am proud that Northamptonshire welcomed its first female chair of the council last year. I'm also proud that the council appointed its first female chief executive earlier this year. And it's also worth noting that they're joined at the top table by Councillor Laura Lorman, our vice chair, and Sanjit and Camilla, the monitoring officer and the deputy monitoring officer. This year's International Women's Day's theme is Inspire Inclusion, and I'm sure everyone in this room and colleagues throughout Northamptonshire Council will agree that greater female representation at all levels of local government is both good and right. So, as well as we mark International Women's Day tomorrow, this council can continue its splendid work in inspiring future generations of inclusion through our policies, debate and action. Together, we can forge women's equity, celebrate women's achievements, raise awareness about discrimination, and take action to drive gender equivalence. International Women's Day belongs to everyone, everywhere, in pursuit of equity every day. Thank you. So, just to move on now, Madam Chair, to the next announcement, I wanted to take a few moments to say a few words about the former Lord Lieutenant of Northamptonshire, David Lang, who has sadly passed away. Mr. Lang served as the Lord Lieutenant of Northamptonshire from 2014 to 2020. Many of you will know that he was recently acknowledged in the 2024 New Year's Honours List, where he was awarded a CBE by Her Royal Highness Princess Anne for his services to charity and philanthropy. Without any doubt, Mr. Lang significantly and positively impacted the local area. He worked to support a wide array of charities and voluntary organisations and did a tremendous amount of work to help promote enterprise and business in the area too. He played a vital role in establishing the Northamptonshire Community Foundation, which has issued over 20 million in grants to causes across the area. He also served as the county's High Sheriff and was Pro-Chancellor at the University of Northampton. Mr. Lang will be remembered at a private family service, but I understand that there will be a public memorial to be held later this year to celebrate his life. Chair, I propose that we hold a minute's silence as a mark of respect to David Lang, a remarkable person who was a force for good in the area, who will sadly be missed.
Thank you, councillors.
Madam Chair, I do have a further announcement to make as well. So members, you will recall that we agreed to our new pay and terms conditions back in August 2023. This was a fantastic achievement for this authority, and they were developed to support our ambitions of being an employer of choice. Those colleagues who have joined us since vesting day or have moved into new roles since April 21 have had their job roles evaluated under the new scheme and are now being moved onto NNC pay terms and conditions. In addition, all new recruits are being appointed to our new pay arrangements, And this is enabling us to attract talent that will help us drive this fantastic council forward. However, this has left us with feelings of inequality and unfairness from some of our employees who transferred in to Northamptonshire Council on their previous employer's terms and conditions. To give you an example, our social workers who are on 2P protected county-council terms and conditions and who have given our council and the previous county council a long service will now receive less pay in some cases and less favourable terms and conditions than a new social worker joining the organisation. That is because the NNC pay band for our social worker role is higher than it was applied at the county. The resulting pay differential is quite simply just not fair. Why would you come to a job where you're doing the same job and being paid less? It just doesn't make sense. The situation that we're in is not of our own making. It is a hangover of the local government reform. But just because we didn't create the inequalities, it doesn't mean we shouldn't fix those. We need to fix them. We need to make sure everyone feels valued. We've always said that we would not be able to unilaterally move all employees to new pay terms and conditions. But if we are truly if we are to truly stick to our word of wanting to be an employer of choice, and if we want to support our staff in the way that we say we do, we can no longer sustain differences that make some of our staff feel less valued than others. We will therefore be offering every employee the opportunity to voluntarily move on to the new Northamptonshire terms and conditions. This will give those employees who would receive preferential pay terms and conditions if they were to move onto our terms the opportunity to do so. This will enable more fairness, and it will move us closer to the one council approach that we are striving for. This will support our ambition to be an employer of choice. Clearly, a significant amount of work was undertaken to achieve the implementation of the pay and grading, and this will also be a huge undertaking. We need to manage expectations regarding the timeline for staff, how and when we start this implementation, and relevant details will be communicated to staff by the officers. A fantastic piece of work from the officers, and I hugely applaud them for that, and it will make our council so much more fairer for all grades within the authority. But thank you.
Thank you. Well, thank you for that welcome news, and also may I offer my echo the words of the leader in the sad loss of former Lord Lieutenant David Lang. His commitment and hard work to promote Northamptonshire has been outstanding. I trust his legacy will continue. Thank you. We now move on to agenda item 6, public participation. 2 public statements have been received for this meeting. A copy of each public statement has been circulated. There is a 3-minute time limit for each speaker. May I please see the first speaker, Mr. Martin Toms. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for allowing me to speak here. My name's Martin Toms. I've actually been a chairman of a group called Natural Eyes, and what we do as a bunch of volunteers is to try to improve the biodiversity of the area along the River Eyes in the town of Kettering. Now, obviously you're going to think to yourself, well, this guy's clearly going to be in favour of green spaces. And of course, I am passionate about preserving and looking after our wildlife because it's very much depleted in this country. However, it's fair to say as well that I am also very passionate about the importance of green spaces to the people that live in urban areas such as our towns. Now, any of you who were lucky enough to go to the Thrapston Council Chamber recently in December would have been very privileged to have heard around about 40 local residents speak about the incredible benefits that they derive or did derive from Weekley Hall Wood and Meadow, an area just north of Kettering and an area threatened with warehouse construction. Just one example, a friend of mine even spoke about how accessing green spaces in the local area massively helped him to recover from serious depression, even stating that it may well have saved his life. Now, academic study after academic study shows how important green spaces are to people who live in urban areas. I could quote many of these, and there are plenty you can find on the internet, but just to quote one from Leeds University, it starts off by saying, urban green spaces such as domestic gardens, parks and woodlands provide a multitude of benefits to human urban populations and a vital habitat for wildlife. By improving physical fitness and reducing depression, the presence of green spaces can enhance the health and well-being of people living and working in cities. Green spaces also indirectly impact our health by improving air quality and limiting the impact of heat waves by reducing urban temperatures. In addition, urban vegetation stores carbon, helping to mitigate climate change, and reduces the likelihood of flooding by storing excess rainwater. Now, I think we all know that we are suffering from an epidemic of obesity and poor mental health in this country, and likewise in this area. And the green spaces are a fantastic opportunity to exercise and improve both our physical and mental health. We don't really need to be told by academic studies, most of us, how important it is to be amongst trees, listen to birdsong, hear the buzzing of bees, see flowers, go for walks and cycle. All of this stuff we know instinctively is good for us. Now, it's very rare for me to have an opportunity to come and speak to my local council. So here I am, urging you to do as much as you can to preserve and enlarge our green spaces such as forests and parks, all of the ones that are within your power within this area. Because for sure, the people of North Northamptonshire will derive benefits well beyond the small cost of doing so. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Toms. May I please call the next speaker, Mr. James Towns. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Councillors. Access to green spaces is not just a luxury, it's a fundamental necessity for fostering community well-being and enhancing both physical and mental health. Green spaces serve as sanctuaries where individuals can escape the hustle and bustle of urban life, reconnect with nature, and rejuvenate their spirits. Physically, green spaces provide opportunities for exercise, recreation, and outdoor activities. Whether it's jogging along a tree-lined path, playing sports in a park, or simply taking a leisurely stroll, these spaces encourage movement and promote a healthier lifestyle. They offer a welcoming environment for people of all ages to engage in physical activities that contribute to improved cardiovascular health, strengthened muscles, and overall enhanced fitness. Moreover, the benefits of green spaces extend beyond the physical realm. They have a profound impact on mental health and emotional well-being. Research consistently shows that spending time in nature reduces stress, anxiety, and depression levels. The tranquility and serenity offered by green environments helps individuals unwind, clear their minds, and find solace amidst life's challenges. Whether it's sitting under a shade of tree, listening to the chirping birds, or feeling the gentle breeze against one's skin, nature has a therapeutic effect that promotes inner peace and emotional balance. Access to green space is also vital for building strong and resilient communities. Parks, gardens, and communal green areas serve as gathering spots where people can come together, socialise, and forge meaningful connections. These spaces foster a sense of belonging and cohesion, among residents, promoting social interaction and community engagement. They provide platforms for cultural events, recreational programmes and civic activities that strengthen the social fabric and foster a sense of unity amongst the diverse populations. In conclusion, access to green spaces is essential for promoting community well-being and nurturing both physical and mental health. By investing in the creation and maintenance of green infrastructure, policymakers, urban planners and communities can create a vibrant, livable environments that support the holistic well-being of individuals and enhance the quality of life for generations to come. Let us prioritise the preservation and expansion of green spaces to ensure that everyone has the opportunity to reap the myriad of benefits that nature has to offer. Thank you, councillors, and I hope you'll support the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Toms and Mr. Towns. May I please now invite you to adjourn to the public gallery where you may observe the rest of the meeting. Thank you. We move on to public questions. One public question has been received. A copy of the question and the answer has been circulated. The questioner, Nick Shaw, is unable to attend the meeting, so I shall take the question and answer as read, and there will be no supplementary question. Okay. Item 3, petitions. There are no petitions have been received on this occasion. Right, we move on to agenda item 7, executive presentations. I understand there are no executive presentations on this occasion. So that moves us on to the substantive items on the agenda. May I remind members that the following items being moved and seconded, they should register their wish to speak to open the debate. First item, Pay Policy Statement 2024-25. May I please see Councillor Jason Smithers to present and move this report.
Thank you, Chair. As required by law, the Council must agree and publish its annual pay policy statement by the 31st of March each year. As the report notes, the pay policy statement sets out the Council's approach to determining the pay of its directly employed workforce for 24-25. The core requirements of the statement are that it must set out NNC's policies relating to the remuneration of its senior officers, the remuneration of its lowest paid employees, and the relationship between the remuneration of the chief officers and the employees who are not chief officers is also known as the pay multiple. The main change from our previously published pay policy statement includes the new NNC pay arrangements and terms and conditions implemented for most of our employees on interim terms and conditions effective from the 1st of February 24. Members are asked to approve the pay policy detailed in Appendix A to ensure the Council meets its legal obligations as set out in Section 38 of the Locusm Act 2011. The recommendation also asks that the Council delegate to the Chief Executive the making of any in-year amendments to the pay policy statement that may be required to be completed by the pay data and Chief Executive remuneration relative to other Council employees after the 1st of April 2024, once the Green Book Pay Award is agreed. Therefore, I refer members to the recommendations set out in Section 3.1 of the report. I reserve the right to speak on that one. Thank you.
Thank you. May I please see Councillor Laura Lawman to second the item?
Chairman, I second the item wholeheartedly and reserve the right to speak.
Okay, thank you. May I please see Councillor John McGee?
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted a clarification of what the leader said earlier about the pay scale, and I'm surprised that announcement wasn't now rather than earlier. But it's a good announcement. But can I have some clarification, because I did contact the head of paid services and asked a question when we have long-term staff who's a middle management social worker getting paid £4,000 less than somebody that's just come in. So will that statement rectify that sort of thing? Because whenever we do this, there's always winners and losers. And just so I get it clear in my head, can you confirm there will be no losers in this? Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Anne Lee.
Thank you, Chair. I welcome the announcement as well for voluntary assimilation. I mean, the option of that. I just wonder what time scale is for that. Is it possible to give more information about the time scales of that option being available? Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Lynn Buckingham.
Thank you. I too welcome the statement by the leader earlier. I would like to know how many departments still need to go through some of the reviews that they're doing on staffing. I don't know whether it's part of this paper, but we're finding or hearing stories of staff members leaving. So, you know, it's one of those things that we need to know that we do have true equity in for our staff. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I remind members that the item for discussion is the pay policy. We are currently veering away from that report. So if we could keep the focus on the report in question, I'd be grateful. Councillor Hakewell.
Oh dear, I might be veering away. But at the first point, I would certainly like the fact that the legislation gives openness and transparency. There should only be very, very finite times when this council does things without openness and transparency, whatever they may be. And now I'm potentially going to veer. I like veering with Councillor McGee, but I didn't understand that statement at the beginning, which is about paying conditions.
Sorry, Councillor, can you please stick to the motion?
Yeah, I just said I didn't
put?
understand it, and that's probably enough.
Okay, thank you. There are no other speakers. Councillor Lorman, you reserved your right.
I have nothing much to add.
Thank you. Councillor Smithers, you reserved your right to speak.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So we are working through the timescales, as it also calls 50% of the staff are caught up in this, and we hope to get that done within the next 2 weeks, so to get that levelness across our organisation, Councillor McGee. And obviously restructures, which somebody mentioned over here, nothing to do with this paper, so I can answer that outside of this meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. There are no other speakers. We will now move to the vote. Will you please use your electronic voting buttons on your microphone units? You will have 30 seconds to vote.
The vote has now commenced. There are 10 seconds remaining. The vote has now ended. The results are as follows. 59 for, 2 abstentions, none against. The vote is carried.
Sorry. So Councillor Smythe?
I've got no voting
credentials on my machine here. It's not working. And it's Councillor Smith, not Smythe. Thank you.
Sorry, I beg your pardon. Okay, your vote will be recorded. Thank you. The recommendation is carried. We move on to agenda item 9, political balance on council committees. May I please see Councillor Jason Smithers to present and move this report.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I'm up and down like a fiddler's elbow at the moment, aren't I? Chair, the Council must allocate seats on committees and subcommittees in accordance with the provisions set out in the Local Government and Housing Act 1989. Accordingly, this report sets out the revised political balance of the Council since it was last reported to Council's annual meeting on the 25th of May 2023. Due to further changes in the makeup of the political groups of the Council made since the report was published on the 28th of February, an addendum report was provided to councillors yesterday, setting out the latest figures as of March 5th, 2024. Addendum Appendix A sets out the new allocations of seats on the Council's ordinary committees and the 2 area planning committees, North and South. Where these are changes to committee positions for individual councillors, I would request that group leaders notify the monitoring officer and the head of democratic services accordingly. I'm pleased to move the motion of the addendum report in Appendix A, recommendations A to D. Thank you, Madam Chair. Reserve the right to speak.
Thank you. May I please see Councillor Matt Keane to second the motion.
Yes, thank you. I'd like to thank all the officers for making this report and the amendments that have had to have been made at last minute following recent announcements. And I will get you the names of the Labour changes as soon as possible once I've consulted my group. Thank you.
Thank you. We have one speaker, more than one. Councillor Mark Pengelly, please.
Just wondering, are we expecting this report to change again shortly? Sorry, are we expecting this report to change again soon?
Right. Councillor Hakewill?
I'm sure we are. Just understanding the way in which this report is phrased, it is in the gift of the leader solely to appoint to EAPs. I'd like to know when those appointments will be made.
Okay. There are no other speakers registered to speak. I will pass back to Councillor Smithers to make his comments.
I'm not going to do that. Thank you very much, Madam Chair. And regarding the EAPs, we can look at that as soon as possible. That is suitable enough for you, Councillor Hakewell, and you'll be notified in due course.
Thank you. We will now move to a vote. Well, please use your electronic voting buttons, or in the absence of those working, please raise your hand.
The vote has now commenced. There are 10 seconds remaining. The vote has now ended. The results are 61-4 and the vote is carried.
Thank you. The recommendation is carried. Thank you. We move on to agenda item 10, motions on notice. We have 2 motions on notice for consideration at this meeting, as printed on your agenda papers. Please note that I expect all contributions to be concise, and please respect the time limits that apply. A mover of a motion has a maximum of 5 minutes to speak. All other contributions are a maximum of 3 minutes. Thank you. Motion 1. May I please see Councillor Fedorovich to move the motion?
Thank you, Chair. We're bringing this motion to you in light of the National Environmental Improvement Plan. This is also an opportunity to recognise the importance of ensuring that everyone should have access to quality green spaces within a 15-minute walk from their homes, as has been outlined, the benefits of which by our two speakers this evening. I wanted to highlight what the Environment Secretary Steve Barclay recently said, also when they announced this plan. Public access to nature is so vital, which is why we pledged in our Environmental Improvement Plan that everyone should have access to green space or water within a 15-minute walk from their home, such as woodlands, wetlands, parks or rivers. As a former health secretary, I've seen the benefits that nature has for people's physical and mental well-being. Bringing these spaces closer to where people live and work is a key priority for me personally. Access to quality green space, as Steve Barclay said, has been proven to increase people's quality of life. And in North Northamptonshire, we are the ones that are responsible for shaping our places and ensuring that people have a place that they love, and they love the place that they live in. So quality green spaces is access to wildlife and nature. It's not just a bit of grass. It's more than that. And we need to make sure that all have fair access to these kinds of vital spaces. Access to green space has also been shown to be significantly less for people in the most deprived areas of England. Only 35% of households with incomes below £10,000 are within a 10-minute walk of publicly accessible natural green space, compared to 59% of households with incomes of £60,000 or more. This disparity in access is more pronounced as well among Black, Asian and minority ethnic groups, who are also less likely to have access to private garden than people from white backgrounds. So this is something that we all just need to be kind of aware of. Alongside this, urban green space in England has seen significant decline, as we've sort of heard, but just some statistics for you. Since 2001 to 2016, green space has gone from 63% to 56%. We have lost a huge chunk. So protecting our existing green infrastructure is incredibly important for the future residents of North Northamptonshire, as well as enhancing those spaces and looking for ways to resolve areas of deprivation. And if this opportunity to apply for a new national forest fits in with our wider schemes of environmental work, we just wanted to flag this as something that could potentially benefit our area. I've no doubt everyone will be in support of this motion to protect and enhance our local environment, and as we all wish to, for future generations to come. Thank you.
Thank you. May I please see Councillor Dell to second the motion?
Thank you, Chair. I will not reserve my right to speak. I've got something to say here. So, first of all, I want to commend the amazing work by our officers, the council grounds team, and especially the tree gang for all their hard work over this tree planting season, with thousands of standard-sized trees planted across North Northamptonshire. It's also been brilliant to see partnership working with the charity Earthwatch Europe to plant tiny forests around the north of the county. I joined a tiny forest planting event in Oakley Vale in Corby a couple of weeks ago, and there's another next week in Kettering organised by Mr Toms and his Natural Eyes group with Wicksteed Park. We have some brilliant country parks, however most require a car journey to get to them, so we need to ensure our town parks and village greens are accessible to all. There are still some issues around our parks, as a couple of examples. I was recently in Wellingborough and noticed the physical barriers which cause problems for mobility scooter users. And in my own ward, Rockingham Road Pleasure Park users complain about a lack of publicly accessible toilet facilities. As a side note, that would make a great place for a cafe. As a council, we know how much our residents care about our green spaces, especially when much-loved areas are threatened. We've seen thousands of residents across the country mobilise over the last few years to protect those green spaces that are precious to them. From the ongoing campaigns in Wellingborough to save the walks, Staunch in Titchmarsh, Protect the Eyes Valley in Desborough, those residents concerned about the Kettering Energy Park near Burton Latimer, the Save Barton Seagrove Spinners campaign, and the successful campaigns to save Fletton Field in Oundle, and the recent fantastic result for the council and the community after the public inquiry at Weekly Hallwood, which is a campaign very close to my heart, of course. And not forgetting the most recently launched campaign to save Rothwell's green space, which has already had some ramifications in this chamber. Adding up all those people actively involved in the campaigns must number hundreds, if not thousands, of residents who are trying to protect North Northamptonshire's green spaces. A reminder of this is that 24,000 people signed the petition to save Weekly Hall Wood and Meadow. Now, a lot of the campaigns I mentioned are due to planning applications that have mobilised people to save their green spaces. With the new local plan progressing, albeit slowly, I would urge us as a council to place strict protections on our green spaces, so that residents can spend more time enjoying them and less time fighting to protect them. I'll end on the words of Environment Secretary Steve Barclay, who said in November, "We know that spending time in green spaces and getting hands-on with nature has a positive impact on our health and well-being, and improving access, planting more trees, protecting nature, and creating new green spaces is our pathway in achieving this." Thank you.
Thank you. We'll have councillors wishing to speak on the motion. May I please call on Councillor Jill Mercer? You have 3 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm really pleased that this motion has been moved forward to support the goals of the Conservative Government's National Environmental Improvement Plan. Having access to green space or water 15 minutes walk from home is just one of the many aspirations of this plan. There are 10 goals. In case you don't know about them, I will tell you what they are. Thriving plants and wildlife, clean air, clean and plentiful water, managing exposure to chemicals and pesticides, maximising our resources, minimising our waste, using resources from nature sustainably, mitigating and adapting to climate change, reduce risk of harm from environmental hazards, enhancing biosecurity, enhance beauty, heritage and engagement with the natural environment. The green space aspiration is just one aspect to this last goal. This was introduced 5 years ago in 2023, and in 2023 it's just had a refresh. And it shows you that you do not have to be a member of the Green Party to care about conserving the environment. You could also be a member of the Conservative Party.
Thank you. Councillor Helen Harrison, please.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. You've heard some very eloquent speeches already on the subject of having access to green spaces. And I was particularly struck by Mr. Toms and what he said about somebody saying that they were saved by having access to green space. Now, generally speaking, I don't really approve of us making things too personal in the chamber, but I do think there's still a huge stigma around mental health, and I think sometimes it's useful to be open about these things. I personally suffer from depression, and at one time it threatened to overwhelm me, and I can testify to the fact that green open spaces probably saved me too. During the COVID lockdowns, I found life extremely difficult. I lived in a third-floor flat with no open space. And Urchester Country Park, I was pretty much within walking distance. I did do a lot of walking at that time just to get there, which testifies to the fact that we need those places a bit closer to us. But again, I would say it kept me sane during those times of being shut in a flat with no open space. So I just want to absolutely echo Mr. Tom's points there. Clearly, you know, as a physiotherapist, you won't be surprised that I endorse all of the physical aspects of access to green open spaces, and I absolutely accept Councillor Fedorowicz's points about equality of access, because that's extremely important too. I'm very proud to have worked hard in my own Oundle ward with Councillor Smithers, the leader, to make sure that we were able to hand over Flettonfield to Oundle Town Council. It was a long and hard-fought battle for the people of Oundle, but we listened. We understood the need for it in Oundle, and I'm really pleased that we've delivered that. And I'm sure there are as many people in Oundle who are in mental need of having that open space to go and enjoy, even with all the fields around. Within the town itself, it's so important to have ease of access. So I absolutely will support this motion, and thank you for bringing it.
Thank you. Councillor David Brackenbury, please.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. And may I first of all start by welcoming this motion. It is nice to see something right across the chamber which I think everybody can take some pleasure in supporting. I'd like to thank the speakers for their eloquence and for their passion and for all that they actually do as well. I mean, it's really important. You know, partnership working is so important in so much of what we're trying to achieve. And so the Ise Rivers Trust, the Veneen Valley, Veneen Valley Trust, I've got the name wrong, and so many other useful bodies that contribute so much. North Northamptonshire Council and its predecessors were always very keen on trying to promote biodiversity and a green environment. You know, the Joint Core Strategy, which was adopted in 2016, has a number of policies on biodiversity, on community facilities, on place-shaping principles which involve biodiversity, and on green infrastructure. I don't have to remind anybody here about the rollout of the Greenway, which is providing a really fantastic corridor for cyclists, for walkers, for horse riders, and just get out into the country. So that's really great. The local plans, the Part 2 local plans that we've had in the former sovereign areas, which are all now adopted, all had green space policies. And the work of the local nature recovery strategies, again, have emphasised the importance of natural capital and partnership working. Madam Chairman, the UK Shared Prosperity Fund has supplied £1.5 million for urban green space enhancement. And I think that's very important, because the point that has been rightly made about accessibility to green space in a more urban environment is very important, the 15-minute walk of which you speak in the motion. So enhancements in these green spaces in our larger towns will, I think, provide obvious and tangible benefits for residents who may not have as much access to green space as people who live in the more rural part of North Northamptonshire. Obviously, the central government have brought in 10% requirement for 10% biodiversity net gain for all new major planning applications. Now, that will have a knock-on effect which will be quite valuable as this a piece of legislation gets actioned and comes into effect. So there's a lot that's going on. We work really hard with...
Councillor Brackenbury, I'm afraid your time is up.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor Joseph Smith, please.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Yeah, I fully support the motion by Councillor Fedorovich. I hope I've correctly pronounced it. Otherwise, I wouldn't be this side of the chamber.
Thank you. Councillor Lynn Buckingham, please.
Thank you. And I too welcome this motion going forward. And thank you, Councillor Mercer, for expanding on actually what it does mean. And I make no bones about it. I'm going to go on about water again, because it really is important that we have clean water. Green spaces is all about families as well. You know, how many of us can remember going tadpoling or stickleback fishing, or, you know, all those things that we used to do with our families when we were younger. You go to a brook or a river, you can't do that these days. There's just too much muck in there. That has an impact on our wildlife. So I will make the case again. We need to be looking after our brooks and streams and rivers as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Dorothy Maxwell, please.
Not everybody has the opportunity to live near green areas or due to having a disability and accessibility. In Denford, a group of people have decided that people cannot have a picnic near the riverbank, people cannot swim or not swim in the nude. Why not? This does not affect others. I am for people having liberties to go where they wish and not be prevented by NIMBYs. Lastly, the Greenway, which was invented by the late Sarah Peacock, is a point that started in Rushden over 10 years ago, and I hope that it continues to carry on, given the money put into it to Oundle. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Sarah Tubbs, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Green spaces are so important to communities across North Northants. We've heard a lot of statistics already, and we've had some heartfelt stories too, but I'm going to give you a couple more statistics, because it can't hurt. Studies have shown that individuals living within walking distance of parks or recreational areas are 25% more likely to engage in regular exercise compared to those without such access. Individuals who have regular access to parks or natural environments have been shown to have a 20% reduction in reported stress levels. And the government is funding so much of this research across UK universities, across private research institutes. Our green infrastructure also preserves valuable biodiversity and helps mitigate the impacts of climate change, promoting resilience and sustainability within our communities. We, as a council, have the opportunity to protect and prioritise green spaces. This motion, that closely aligns with the government's National Environmental Improvement Plan, provides a way for us to do this. Putting the effort in now by supporting this motion will have tremendous beneficial impacts on our residents' health and well-being for the future. So I really hope you can all support it.
Thank you. Councillor Sedwin Brown.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I thank Councillor Fedorovich for bringing this motion before us this evening. The green space off Junction 3 of the A14 that we in Rothwell and the surrounding villages are so desperately trying to save is the nearest available green space for residents living on the southwestern side of Rothwell, and it's regularly used by a great many people. This motion further adds weight to the need to protect this precious area and not to destroy at least a third of it or more by covering it in concrete, but to include it as part of an urban green space strategy. The NHS website clearly states that walking is simple, free, and one of the best ways to get more active, lose weight and become healthier. And a brisk 10-minute walk daily has lots of health benefits. To be able to take a walk in a green space is shown to be associated with significant reductions in high blood pressure, heart disease, and type 2 diabetes. And people who enjoy more time in nature enjoy enhanced cognitive functioning and attention, reduced stress, and are also less likely to display anxiety disorders and depression. Remember how we all enjoyed our daily walks outside during COVID lockdowns. So I wholeheartedly support this motion. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor Anne Lee, please.
Thank you, Chair. We all seem to be in agreement, so I won't make it too long. It's just a proof will be in the pudding when the planning applications come to the fore to build on on green spaces in the future. So, and also the 10% biodiversity net gain. It's a minimum. Many councils have agreed to go above that. We could decide to go above that. And I'm glad that Councillor Buckingham already mentioned children, because yes, for children it's so important to make daisy chains, to learn about trees and bees and insects and things that before they disappear. So yeah, I'm so glad we're in agreement. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Jim Hakewell, please.
Thank you, Chairman, and really to compliment many of the comments that have already been made. I remember going to the Eyes Valley with Martin Toms and planting trees there. And it's one of the nicest things to watch those trees as you can glimpse them from the road. I also, on our own land, have planted trees and I'm very proud of that. A field that used to have just 2 trees now has about 20, every one of them, or at least a number of them, named after each of our grandchildren and people, members of the family. So we're lucky to be able to do that. Some years ago, the councils, certainly was Kettering, and I think grouped with others, sought to win the bid to be the new national forest, which ultimately ended up in Derbyshire and Leicestershire. And I really do think we should be bidding for the Rockingham Forest to become a even more recognised national forest. And why would any council destroy land in its own possession that is biodiverse and attractive when the opportunity to not do that and to identify land which is not so biodiverse or could be enhanced? And I leave that question hanging from that point of view. We also have the green patch in the Eyes Valley, which offers up significant numbers of young people to go and get that environment of growing things and being in green space. I hope we continue to support with sending people and nominating people to go to that particular green patch. I commend Councillor Brackenreed for welcoming the greenways, and I hope that the greenway and one of the footpaths between Braybrook and Harborough happens quickly. So there we are, welcoming, as often happens. Over 80 people walked 15 minutes from the centre of Rothwell the other week to express their anger at the potential loss of a green space. It's quite pointless standing here and saying, yes, we're in favour of green space, and then when we have control of land ourselves, we apportion it to a project which strangely is costing about 1.3 million when we're heralding 1.5 million coming in. And I'd welcome Councillor Harrison and Smithers' support after the success of Fletton Field to hand over Rothwell Green Space to Rothwell Council. A great initiative. Let's do the same. We should act as we say in this chamber that we're going to act. So I fully support this recommendation, both personally in my life and for the whole of North Northamptonshire. And it's not too late to save the Rothwell Green Space if that budget is taken out. Not too late.
Thank you. Thank you. Councillor Andy Mercer, please.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I support this motion. Going back many years ago when I was doing my research, I was based in a mental hospital, not as a patient, but as a member of staff. And I learnt, checking the current research that was coming out, that patients who in acute hospitals, not just mental hospitals, were seated or bedded where they could look out a window and see something green, healed and recovered faster than patients who were staring at concrete. That really sank in on me. That shows just what an impact it has on people. When I moved into my current house, it was built on what used to be a rubbish dump. So much so that the house has to sit on piles because it's still subsiding. First thing I did when I moved in was to dig a hole in the ground, turn it into a pond, collect some tadpoles and put them in there, and the whole estate now has a community of amphibians, still 30 years later, breeding every year in that pond. Counted frog spawn, I think 4 clumps of it again about a week ago. I also drove over to a nursery and bought, I think, about 30 trees and planted them all around the garden. Most of them are still there. One got killed by Russian vine, but the rest are still there. Now, the biodiversity was obviously massively enhanced, although I wish the developers had not gone to the extent of gassing the nearby rabbit warren. We've got muntjacs appearing in the garden, even though we're in the middle of an urban area. But on the other hand, there's a downside of it. The hedgehogs seem to have disappeared, largely wiped out, I think, by the traffic As a nation, we need to think more carefully about how we're going to protect animals like hedgehogs that are so vulnerable to urban environments. It's no good just saying nice words and saying we're going to put a bit of grass somewhere. We've got to have some way of protecting the animals and the other creatures that are vulnerable to our modern lifestyle. I support having green spaces and having more of them, but we've got to be intelligent about how we design them. If, for instance, there's no wildlife corridor between a couple of green spaces, animals will have to run across the roads and you'll have roadkill. We need to give a lot of thought to how we're going to organise our green agenda in the future. It's got to be carefully thought out, it's got to be planned, it's got to be strategic. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor Jan O'Hara, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I don't know if, well, most people who know me know I'm absolutely crazy about outdoor spaces and enjoying outdoor sports. I love paddleboarding, love football, and within our youth group that we ran, we did take a group of children paddleboarding. A lot of them hadn't been out paddleboarding. A lot of them hadn't even bothered going out for a walk because too many children sit there and just look at a screen. But I think that evening when they went paddleboarding, we were supposed to be out for 2 hours, we came back 5 hours later, and the children were enthralled. But they learnt so much. They learnt about the farmland, they learnt about caring for the environment. They had taken a bag with them, so we picked up any rubbish that was in the river. And what strikes me is the work that we do along the River Nene, the work that we do in Oundle, because the children go down there during summer holidays and enjoy that open space. And they've learnt to clean up after themselves. For teenagers, that is amazing. But they've learnt through seeing other children do it and caring for their environment. And that's what's important. We need to engender that care in our children. For they're the next generation that are going to look after us. With NNC, we continue to endeavour to protect and enhance our green spaces through careful planning, our alignment to the local plan. Part 2, whereby we have areas that are protected, that are historically and visually important. And I think that's one thing we do need to bear in mind when we're looking at planning applications. I know our officers do that, I know that we do that on our committees, and I know that we do that as councillors. And we'll continue to do that because we'll continue to protect our area. Our government has a 25-year environmental plan, and it sets out within that how we can help the natural world regain and retain a good health. It aims to deliver cleaner air and water in our rural areas and our cities and protect threatened species and provide good wildlife habitats. But I think we ourselves can do that. We need to think about how we live our lives, how we protect our areas. So I think this motion is amazing, and I think that across the chamber everybody's in agreement that this is what we aspire to do. And we, within North Northants, continue to do that. We work towards the protection and enhancement of our open spaces, and we're also looking at the wider issues within the local nature recovery strategy, and as has already been mentioned, the Greenway Board, and all the our partners that work within that. So I congratulate you for bringing this to us, but I congratulate the whole chamber for actually being in agreement and wishing to work towards our open green spaces to retain, protect, and look after the area that we live in. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor John McGee, please.
Thank you, Chair. Of course, we would support this motion, Chair. And one of the main reasons I support this is it wasn't that long ago at a past council that I put something very similar forward, because that's how important this is to our residents. We know the statistics about people feeling good having green spaces. And especially in urban areas, especially in areas of poverty. And we're so lucky in Corby, when you look around, if you've had an opportunity to walk around the fantastic woods we have, Kingswood, Hazelwoods, Rockingham, it's absolutely fantastic. And that's the sort of thing that we have to safeguard going forward. We shouldn't lose any of that ground. And I would take this opportunity to thank the Friends of Hazelwood, the Friends of Kingswood, etc., all the volunteers out there that do a fantastic job, help Corbison looking after our woods, so that we get that pleasure from them. And it would be a great opportunity to have something separate for environment to sort of celebrate the volunteers at least once a year, won't it? Just in that area to show we really care as a council. And I hope we can do something like that, Chair. And can I just say, Chair, it's lovely to be able to have a joint agreement. I've never seen so many speakers when we're all going to agree on the same thing. I wish we could do that in some of the other things that we debate, but it doesn't always happen. But thank you for bringing this in, and we will support it.
Thank you. Councillor John Paul Carr, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Very much welcome this motion. People have said lots of things, but let us not forget that we are building on what is already there. You know, we are so lucky in North Northamptonshire that, yes, we've got an awful lot of open spaces, both in the countryside, both within our towns. They help us as individuals, as a community, to develop that idea of sense of place and sense of belonging. We do need to build on that biodiversity that those open places provide us, be them formal or informal spaces. We've heard mention tonight about those linkages, about pathways and cycleways. We need to improve those. I only went to a meeting the other day at Swanspool House when we were talking about the cycleways and the linking up to the wider rural communities into the town. And of course, we mustn't forget the town and parish councils and what they contribute to the open spaces that we have in our area in North Northamptonshire. You know, the little public parks that they run, the recreation grounds and so on. We're also lucky, and Councillor McGee mentioned this, about all the community and voluntary groups that we have in North Northamptonshire and what they contribute to all our open spaces, again in that formal or informal area. Again, mention's been made about the River Nen and the River Ise. How lucky are we to have such wonderful waterways in our area? The River Nen actually is 100 miles long if you were to stretch it out in one line, and of course it weaves its way through part of our Northamptonshire. Let's not forget many of our formal parks in our towns and our villages came from us from the Victorian Edwardian period to help us with civic pride, something that we as a council need to carry on. The pocket parks that we've got as well, the country parks, everything from East Carlton, Sywell, Irchester, which is, I've only got to walk out of my door and across a field. I'm so lucky in regards to where I live. But I grew up in Wellingborough. And within Wellingborough, I'd only got to walk out of my door, and within 15 minutes, I was in several different parks. We're very lucky as well that through North Northamptonshire, we've got the Chester House estate as well. It may not be everybody's cup of tea, but it has provided open space to many individuals. And of course, yes, going forward, as we have over many years seen development happen in North Northamptonshire, it has to be planned. We've heard about the joint core strategy, the local plans, and I can only say about Wellingborough in this case, but we think about Glenvale Park and the open space that they're creating on that, and Stanton Cross and the new country park that they are creating on that space as well. So, well done. Let's move forward.
Thank you. Well, there are no other speakers. Councillor Fedorovich, as the mover of the motion, would you like to add any comment?
Thank you, Madam Chair. It's wonderful to see support across the chamber and so many passionate people on this topic, and it's actually been really heartwarming to hear about some of the impacts that this has had on certain people, and obviously a lot of the statistics around this kind of help to highlight the matter. It is about just sort of this is the first sort of step. If I'm honest, it's a chance for us to sort of draw a line of where we want to be. But as Councillor Mercer said, there's a lot more to do. This is just sort of outlined some of it, and it's not just actually. I would challenge. It's not just about the land that we own. We're custodians for the whole area, and place shaping is what we do. This is what people look to us for. So it's only us that can protect some of those key areas. And I did just want to highlight as well, there are groups out there that can support us to do that. there's actually a group called the Fields in Trust that are a green mapping, asset mapping organisation, and they help councils even to protect small bits of green space. So it's about protecting, enhancing, finding those gaps. But yes, what I need to say is whilst a lot of us still do have access, and a lot of us are quite lucky, not everyone does. Not everyone does have access, and that is what we actually need to be identifying. It's not just about 15 minutes and enhancing those where we've already got them. That is part of this, but we have to actually start systematically identifying where we have those gaps, and that's where maybe other organisations could support us to do that, or if we can't do that ourselves. But I'm very, very glad. I'm not going to go back to all the comments because it's wonderful to see so many of you chipping in on this. But I really do think as well, I did just want to mention about the civic pride, because I do think that is such a big thing, isn't it? It's about loving where we live. And I really do think green spaces, urban green spaces, it's inspiring everywhere, every part of North Northamptonshire to be a wonderful place. So so grateful to everyone for your kind comments this evening, and I look forward to voting on the motion. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Well, thank you to all the speakers. We will now move to the vote. Would you please use your electronic voting buttons? You will have 30 seconds to vote.
The vote has now commenced. There are 10 seconds remaining. The vote has now ended. The results are as follows: 64, 0 against, 0 abstentions.
Thank you. The motion is carried. Thank you. Can we move on to motion 2? May I please seek Councillor Jim Hakewell to move the motion?
Thank you, Chairman. The motion I'm moving is: this council welcomes the improvements achieved by Northamptonshire's Children's Trust fostering agency to being rated as good following Ofsted's January 2024 inspection. As corporate parents, it is reassuring that our friends and colleagues at the Trust are succeeding in protecting and enriching the lives of the children and recognising the amazing role of foster carers. This council calls on the leader of the council to write to the Chief Executive of Northamptonshire Children's Trust to reinforce the council's commitment to supporting it in continuing to move forward positively. Chairman, I'm very pleased to propose this motion. The people who foster our children and those of the children in care under the care of us as corporate parents are absolutely the real heroes of our community. They do an amazing job, and often in circumstances which have been quite difficult and quite stressful for those young children who come into their care. But they take them on freely, and they give them the support and help and family life that pretty much all of us, but maybe not all, in this chamber, excuse me, in this chamber have enjoyed ourselves. So I welcome the ever-improving care that the Children's Trust is giving, and I know there were many people who questioned the creation of the Children's Trust out of the ashes of the County Council. But it's really, really good to see good. Just to pick up a couple of paragraphs, and I've got here the Ofsted report. The fostering agency is working hard to better understand the quality of children's lived experiences. Care practice is now more meaningful and child-centred. Children have their own separate recordings that are, overall, written in a child-friendly way. Supervising social workers spend time with children on a regular basis. This has helped to improve the overall quality of relationships between children, foster carers, and their supervising social workers. And don't let's forget our social workers, who are amazing people, again, looking after those who find themselves in less easy circumstance again than many. Overall, children are settled and make good progress. Many children remain with their foster carers for many years and into their adulthood. Since the last inspection, there has been a more proactive response in supporting foster carers in continuing to care for children during periods of instability and challenge. The understanding of risk and safety for foster carers and children is greatly improved. The judgment of requires improvement recognises that members of the current senior leadership team at the Children's Trust have the capacity to achieve the remaining changes and developments. So not only have the Children's Trust come to good, but the management and staff have been recognised as having the capability, the ability and the knowledge to actually develop the service. So, Madam Chairman, I'm very happy to move this motion. I'm very happy to be a councillor and a corporate parent with a Children's Trust that is working hard, and let us not forget, working hard in a landscape of all children's trusts and all children's services facing amazing pressures. So I very much hope that there will be equal unanimity tonight and that the leader will write that letter, because we all support the writing of that letter. We support our children as they are our future, and we support the Trust in its endeavours to look after them. I so move.
Thank you. May I please see Councillor Charlie Best to second the motion?
Thank you, Chair. I think the merit and the substance of the motion is apparent, and the spirit of it. I'm happy to support the motion, and I would ask all members to do likewise. Thank you.
Thank you. We have some speakers. May I please see Councillor Jason Smithers?
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, and I too welcome this motion from Councillor Hakewell. It's fantastic that fostering services in Northampton have made such a significant improvement that the Ofsted rating has gone from good to inadequate in just 12 months. This is positive news for our children and young people whom we have a duty, and I'm sure children and young people welcome the outcome. Our foster carers and colleagues who work hard to improve outcomes and help our children, give them active and fulfilled lives and the best start in life. Attaining this has been no mean feat, and it's a real testament to the commitment and hard work of colleagues in the service to achieve this. Although I have already congratulated colleagues, including Colin Foster, who is the Chief Executive of the Children's Trust, in informal meetings and publicly in a press release, I welcome this opportunity to put on record my congratulations to Colin and his colleagues on this good outcome in a letter form. Madam Chair, I would like to take this opportunity to highlight the considerable shortage of foster carers and encourage anyone considering fostering to contact the Children's Trust. We all know the difference that foster carers can make to the lives of children and young people, and it is a rewarding experience for those who undertake the role. I would like to thank those already supporting children and young people, and I hope that we can support more people coming into this role in the future. You can make a massive difference to the lives of children and young people in Northamptonshire. As a council, we have been working closely with the Trust and West Northamptonshire Council on its journey to improve children's services county-wide, and we have made great strides in the last few years, which I'm sure we are all immensely proud of. We still have work to do in fostering and providing our other children's services. I look forward to continuing to work openly and collaboratively with the Children's Trust and our neighbouring authority, West Northamptonshire Council. I support writing to Colin to express our commitment to working positively with the Trust. However, as you would expect, Madam Chair, I will continue to do so in the regular meetings and conversations I have with him as leader of this authority. Thank you.
Thank you. May I please see Councillor Jill Mercer?
Thank you, Madam Chair. As a member of the Corporate Parenting Board, I was really shocked to hear about the poor Ofsted report to the Fostering Service in February 2023. The report was also reviewed by a scrutiny committee I attended. We questioned hard on the details of the inspector's report, which had made very grim reading. We were assured that things were not as bad as they seemed, but it was a failure of communication between different social workers. I must admit I was dubious that this could be turned round, and certainly expected this to take longer than a year. It was very pleasing to hear, therefore, that the fostering service was rated good at the January 2024 inspection. A lot of work must have been put in to turn this round so fast. Our concern was, of course, that these children were being looked after and safeguarded properly, as we're all corporate parents. I therefore also welcome this motion to congratulate the Trust in this Ofsted report. Now they have to keep up this standard.
Thank you. Councillor Joseph Smith.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Yeah, I fully support the motion by Councillor Hakewell. Fostering is a very hard job, but they're also doing a great job. Carried out, like Councillor Hakewell said, by real heroes. I work with children, and it's great for the children to have a stable background. It really makes my job very easy. I'm also encouraged by what the leader of the council has said tonight as well.
Thank you. Councillor Dorothy Maxwell, please.
This is already acknowledged that foster carers play an important part in children's lives. What we should be doing is encouraging more people to come forward to help other children. I'm sure that they know they're recognised for their work. However, I would like to see these children go to schools which will meet their needs and encourage them to follow their dream. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to move to Councillor Lorman, whose system isn't working properly.
Thank you very much, and I do apologise. It looks as though I'm jumping the queue, but my microphone can only be activated manually at the moment. I'm part of the Corporate Parenting Board and have been for quite some time. So I've seen the journey the Children's Trust has endeavoured and enjoyed. One of the things we do receive at the actual meeting of the Corporate Parenting Board is a report about what the children actually achieved. And when you have a young person and a report about a young person who has gone through dramatic circumstances and then actually achieves something tremendously, and we have these reports time after time, and that is only down to, as it was said several times before, due to the fantastic foster carers. And I can only encourage people, there is no age limit to foster caring, to actually come and join the fostering group. There are foster carers who are part of the Corporate Parenting Board as well, who speak of their experiences. We challenge in every area, whether it's financial or whatever, because all of us, and I'm sure the chamber here, Madam Chairman, is united in that. We all want what is best for those children who've been let down in one shape or another, possibly by their parent or somebody else, and to give them the best possible start and encourage their life to go into a different path, and a path of success where they understand they're being loved and cared for. And I am absolutely thrilled that the Children's Trust has managed to get from a very negative result to a good rating. So congratulations to them, and I fully endorse the leader to write a letter. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Emily Fedorovich, please.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to extend my heartfelt thanks to the staff at the Children's Trust and Fostering Agency for the hard work in securing an Ofsted rating of good, because such an accomplishment is absolutely the result of a collective endeavour including the support staff, foster carers, and all those involved in the fostering service. It is their hard work and dedication and commitment to excellence that has brought about this result, and it is so recognised. I also really encourage more people to sign up to be a foster parent. It's something truly special to give a child that stable home, a loving space to grow up and become their best. And it's actually something I've seriously considered myself and may well do in the future. But I am very grateful to those who foster children in our area, because your kindness and love is really changing their lives. I look forward to this letter being sent to the fostering service team as a formal recognition of their outstanding achievement and as encouragement for their ongoing efforts to provide the highest standards of care. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor John McGee, please.
Thank you, Chair. Jim passed a motion, and I hate to be cynical at times, but why did they go into the Children's Trust in the first place? It's because they were let down by you lot, and which Jim was part of at the time, and now failing, and it went into a Children's Trust. That's just a fact, whether we like it or not. But I am so happy that this has improved for the sake of our children, because that's the most important thing, the health and well-being and the education of our children. And I really want to celebrate those that do foster, and indeed those that foster long-term, that make that big difference, and then go on to adopt. Because I know some people living in Corbett, it's adopted children who have fostered long-term. What a difference, what a thing to do in your life. And that's absolutely fantastic, and I really welcome that, Chair. I would ask one more thing, and I asked this at the Old County. We have so many looked after children, as it was said about the Corporate Parent Board. How many do we actually take on and give apprenticeships to in a big organisation like this? And I'm sure if we really wanted to, we could do that, couldn't we? We could do that easy to help them get a great future. So I would challenge you back and say, let's do that. Let's look at so many a year and say, let's take on us apprenticeships within our organisation, and that could make a real difference. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Wendy Brackenbury, please.
Thank you, Chair. I too would like to congratulate Northamptonshire Children's Children's Trust Fostering Agency for their improvements and their good Ofsted rating following inspection in January. I'd also like to add my thanks for our foster carers, who play a very important role in caring and supporting children and young people across the whole of Northamptonshire, and indeed Northamptonshire itself. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Tom Partridge-Underwood, please.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I'm pleased to speak on this motion. I would like to say thank you so much to Councillor Hakewell for bringing the motion. I don't want to excite him too much. I'm not crossing the floor. But we needed to be reminded that we are corporate parents. I serve on the adoption panel, and we rely heavily on the fostering side of looking after the young people that we are responsible for. And last week it took me 3 days to read thoroughly the paperwork on 3 cases. On Tuesday I sat on the panel and heard the 3 cases and made decisions. And it's a huge responsibility. Sometimes when I'm reading the paperwork, I have to walk away from it because I can't cope with the horror stories that these young people have been through. And when I think of the commitment of the foster parents and as already been said, the adopted parents, it leaves me speechless. I can't say too much about that. We are indebted. Now, I listened with interest to our leader when he said earlier on that tomorrow is, I wrote it down, National Women's Day. I'm more or less not the only male member of the panel for adoption. There are others, but the majority, well, just like the top table tonight, the majority are ladies. I'm considering starting a National Men's Day just to balance it a little bit, you know. But what I don't want is for this just to be a letter, words on paper. There's plenty of room for male and female, of course, to sit on panels and things like that, to support the invaluable work that the panels, the organisation undertake. And so actions speak louder than words. But I do support this letter going. Credit where credit's due. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor Helen Howell, please.
Thank you, Chairman. I too support this paper, this motion. I was raised by my grandmother because both parents left 3 young children. She was 60 when she took 3 young children in nappies on. And if it wasn't for her, myself and my 2 sisters would have been in foster care or in a home somewhere. So I totally appreciate what people do for children who are left for whatever reason. And I'd just like to recognise as well, if we may, those unsung heroes, so the grandparents who do an amazing job sometimes as well as all those who take on the responsibility of young children and foster them. So I absolutely do welcome this motion. But I'd also like to just raise a point that Councillor McGee said about we brought a paper to the executive not so long back actually with regards to protected characteristics, and that was those in the care experienced, and we are prioritising through our application process anyone who is involved in those. So I hope that answers your question as well. So yeah, thank you. I fully support this motion.
Thank you. Councillor Lynn Buckingham, please.
Thank you. Just 2 points of clarification. Councillor Underwood, we do have a Men's International Day. It's the 19th of November each year. So put it in your diary and celebrate everything gentlemanly. And the other thing is, Councillor Howells, thank you for your personal experience, and, you know, any family member that steps in, that takes over that and does it for, not for gratification, but we're family. We step in, we help all we can. I too support this motion. Thank you.
Thank you. There are no more speakers, so thank you for all those comments. I will return to Councillor Hakewell. If you have any closing comments.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you everybody across the chamber for the unanimity. I'd like to thank Councillor Best for seconding the motion, and I'd just like to dwell on, and I'm sure Councillor Scott Edwards isn't here, don't remember the apology if he's not here, but I'd just like to say that Councillor Scott Edwards I've known for an awful long time, probably longer than he would like to think, and I would just like to say that as a Cabinet Executive member and sitting on the SEND board, which I was invited to do and to listen, he does an amazing job, and I'm full of admiration for Scott and the work that he does, and he's an executive member that I very much admire. So hopefully, wherever he is, he'll watch this recording at some later point. Councillor Smithers certainly encourage others to take up fostering. Councillor Mercer noted your comments. Joseph, Councillor Smith, real heroes, absolutely real heroes, and giving a stable background is important. Councillor Maxwell, again, encouraging more people to come forward and volunteer. One of the things is the report that will encourage people, because someone living in North Northamptonshire or on our borders will say, there is a service which is supporting foster carers. I think I would like to go and be under their wing. So not only the report, but this motion. Councillor Fedorovic, concur with your comments. And I also know you spend an amazing amount of time in schools where some of our looked after children will be being schooled, and your heart is in the right place. And equally, as Mayor of Kettering, you have particularly worked on that. And that's the enveloping all around, isn't it? Not just being corporate parents. Councillor McGee, apprenticeships. Absolutely right. I was learning at the LGA only the other day that in Cambridgeshire they have a very innovative way of making sure that when care leavers come out of that process, or at least come to the point of wanting a job. So I would very much hope that we will contact Cambridgeshire. I just put Councillor Brackenbury, Wendy Brackenbury, agree. Councillor Tom Partridge Underwood, thank you. Any one of us could have proposed this motion today, just happens to be me. But the important thing is, by the sound of it, the result is going to be unanimous. So it doesn't matter who proposes it. Every last single one of us is supporting by what I hear. And I'd also like to say a personal, and I think a corporate, thank you to you, because as you correctly said, sitting on those boards and learning the histories of some of these young children is quite a sobering thing. And thank you so much for being there. I know it takes an enormous amount of time. Councillor Howell, yes, recognising family members like grandparents who step in because they're family. And the point is here, we're corporate parents, we are family in that way. Certainly, that's an amazing thing to do. Although I would say having grandchildren is great when you give them back to your children. And Councillor Buckingham, 19th of November, Tom, and all the men, but I think we should invite the ladies too. What is it, National Men's Day or whatever, pint on the bar, I think, for us and everyone else who wants to come. So, Chairman, I'm happy to finish my comments there, and I sense, and I'm very happy to have brought this forward, it will be unanimous, and that will be the way we finish this debate.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. We will now move to the vote. Will you please use your electronic voting systems, please?
The vote has now commenced.
Okay.
There are 10 seconds remaining. The vote has now ended. The results are as follows: 64, 0 against, and 0 abstentions.
Thank you. The motion is carried. Councillors, we now move on to questions. I'm happy to allow a 5-minute comfort break if people would like, but we have a lot of questions, so please return within 5 minutes.
Councillor is taken as read, so we just go straight to a supplementary question.
Okay.
So for question 1, Councillor Lee, do you have a supplementary? Question 2, same.
Okay, so the responder, do they get a chance to respond?
Yeah, so, but I think they'll usually say, I'll provide a response in writing, don't they?
Yeah, yeah, okay. Okay. Thank you, councillors. We will now move on to the questions submitted by councillors. 18 questions have been submitted to this meeting, so I would be grateful if supplementary questions, if there are any, and responses are kept concise. Thank you. The questions and answers are taken as read. I will ask each councillor to put their supplementary question if they have one. Councillor Lee, do you have any supplementary question to your first question?
No, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Smithers, do you wish to address the council in answer to that question? No? Okay, thank you. Taken as read. Okay, question 2. Councillor Pengelly, do you have a supplementary question?
Yes. Does the executive member agree with me that it doesn't sit right with parents and guardians? The council's got a budget of £95,000 to fight parents and guardians who are trying to get the children into school. And of the 42,000 you spend fighting, how much of that was given in the parents' favour? How many cases did the parents win?
Okay. Councillor Bunday, if you wish to respond.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Can I just say, Councillor Scott Edwards is actually away celebrating his wedding anniversary, which is why he isn't here. I will pass that question on to Councillor Edwards, and I will get a response for Councillor Pengelly.
Thank you. Councillor Pengelly, question 3. Do you have a supplementary question?
Yes. How many children have an allocated school place but still not who is not in the setting of the school because of its suitability, and how is that reported? How is home education reported, as some parents are having to home educate, parents and guardians are having to home educate while waiting to get their EHCP place? Does the executive member recognise that one child not in school is too many? 312 is just not good enough.
So, Councillor Rowley, do you wish to respond?
Thank you, Chair. My name's been put down because Councillor Edwards obviously is not here, so I'll relay the question back and get an answer to you.
Thank you. Question 4, Councillor Pengelly, do you have a supplementary question?
Does the leader agree with people on this side of the council and also most of our residents that Kia wasn't fit for purpose in April 2020 when he proclaimed that Kia were the new contractor that were going to be working on behalf of Northamptonshire County Council at the time, and also in 2022 when he said that we need a fit-for-purpose highways contractor that's essential in the delivery of services. Who is to blame for the failure of Kia? Is it the previous executive member or cabinet member at the county council who brought this in, or is it the present executive member?
Sorry, Councillor Binley, do you wish to respond to this one? Oh, Councillor Smithers.
Thank you very much, Chair. I think there's been a bit of a mix-up with the names on here. He's put this one to myself. So I don't feel that the Highways Authority is failing. I think the Highways Authority is doing the work that we require of them. I think there's some attention we need on KPIs to just bring them up to speed and let them understand the high expectations that all of these members here and all of the members over there expect of our highways contractor. About proportioning blame to any executive member, I don't think that's constitutive to a good discussion in this chamber, but happy to have an offline conversation with you, Councillor Pengelly. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Lynn Buckingham, do you have a supplementary question?
Yes, I do. Very short one. Will the NCC be consulting on specialist disability groups and SEND groups on what sort of equipment or play areas are needed in the future, please?
Thank you. Councillor Matt Binley, do you wish to respond on this one?
Yeah, thank you very much, Madam Chair. Councillor Buckingham, thank you very much for your supplementary question. So, of course, what you will find is with regards to people with SEND needs, there are already designs that are in existence. So, therefore, things such as the sensory domes, they are the types of things that are used. I certainly know of one that is due to be delivered this year in Northamptonshire. So it's not so much about consulting about what type of equipment is needed and wanted in an area, because, of course, that type of thing is already known about, so that it caters for individuals who have a whole spectrum of different needs. It's more about where those are best situated.
Thank you. Question 6, Councillor Lynn Buckingham, do you have a supplementary question to put?
Yes, I do, and again, I will keep it brief. Would Councillor Rowley look into the speed of people being able to downsize, because we're hearing that it can still take up to 2 years. So we've got a lot of tenants who are waiting to move up into 2-bedroom or 3-bedroom properties that can't do it because there's a blockage. So would Councillor Rowley look into the speed of what's happening and why, and how we can take that forward? Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Rowley, do you wish to respond?
Yeah, thank you for the supplementary question. Happy to look into that and see what we can do.
Thank you. Question 7, Councillor Lynn Buckingham, do you have a supplementary question?
Yes, I do. Thank you very much for the report. Are there any current backlogs of repairs happening because of the work that's gone on? So have we been able to keep up with day-to-day repairs, not just the backlog? So is there now a backlog of the backlog, if you know what I mean? Thank you.
Councillor Mark Rowley, please.
There is. There are 2 teams actually working on this, I believe. One doing the project old backlog that's highlighted in your response, and then the ongoing repairs is done by another team. So there is a backlog, but they're working on it.
Thank you. Question 8, Councillor Anne Lee, do you have a supplementary question?
Yes, please, Chair. Since most of the collections of Kettering Museum, most of the collections in storage are social history items rather than archaeological items, do we have the portfolio's assurance that those collections in storage are being looked after properly and regularly visited to check for signs of woodworm, etc.? Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Helen Howell, please.
So, thank you for your supplementary question. The answer to that is yes.
Thank you. We'll move on to question 9. Can I please see Councillor Ross Armour to ask any supplementary question?
Thank you. I have to say I was a little bit confused by the latter part of this answer, because my findings are that the pavilion is essentially desolate at the present time. So can I simply ask who is using it as we speak?
Thank you. Councillor Helen Howell, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, Councillor Armour, it is in use and it is being used by the Kettering Harriers. So I'm not too sure what you mean by desolate. I've been assured by officers it is in use. Thank you.
Thank you. Question 10. Councillor Ross Armour, do you have a supplementary question?
Not on that one, thank you.
Okay, thank you. We move on to question 11. Councillor Simon Riley, please. Sorry? Sorry, I beg your pardon. I'm jumping ahead here. So, Councillor Ross Armour.
No, question 12.
No.
Which one?
Oh, 12.
Simon Riley's gone home. Yeah,
Oh,
so
right,
skip that
sorry, I beg your pardon.
That's it, yeah.
We're now moving to question 12. Councillor McGee, do you have a supplementary question?
I do, thank you, Chair. And I don't like bringing this type of question to there. It's through frustration after 2 years of nothing really happening. And does the Councillor Brackenbury agree with me? If we don't deal with this as soon as possible, we will encourage others to do the same thing on our green land and our green spaces. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor David Brackenbury, please.
Well, thank you very much for the supplementary remark which was made. And I mean, I do take Councillor McGee's point. It is a bit complicated because the adverse possession of land, as I explained in the answer, is in fact a civil matter, and I think it is not within the competence of the council. However, I do know there's a lot of unpleasant environmental effects going on in that, and that we are taking a more proactive way to work with enforcement to try to make the situation as clear as possible. And I can also talk to you offline. More than happy to keep an interest in it.
Thank you. Councillor Emily Fedorovich, do you have a supplementary question?
Yes, I do. Thank you, Chair. Hello. Knowing that the library roof has been a known issue for over half a decade, how has it not been budgeted for an action before it's reached a critical point? And what will the council be doing to make up for the fact that the library cannot celebrate its 120th anniversary, which is May 2024, with an open facility?
Thank you. Councillor Helen Howell, please.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. And thank you for your supplementary question, although I can't answer on issues that happened prior to vesting day on this council. As you probably well know, that the library was the responsibility of the county council. I wasn't on it, so I'm unable to know what happened to that prior to then. As you're probably aware, the extension part of the library was also part of Kettering Borough Council's work. They went out for the funding. So, and as for the celebrations, unfortunately, there's not a great deal we can do about the library as the roof is needing replacement, and I think that's really, really critical that we ensure that we protect that building for future generations. So as soon as that library can be opened, it will be. Thank you.
Thank you. Question 14. Councillor Fedorovich, do you have a supplementary question?
Yes, thank you, Chair. In the reply, thank you for this also, it mentions fostering collective action. How is a public broadcast anything more than a talking shop, and how are we actually encouraging people to get engaged and generate collective action with our residents and our businesses?
Thank you. Councillor Smithers, please.
Thank you, Chair. I'll answer this in Councillor Pentland's absence. Whilst the climate conference is a really useful tool to getting people engaged locally about understanding what this authority is doing to reduce carbon footprints, I think that the engagement that comes out of those online things that go onto YouTube and the climate change conference is watched by quite a few people. and it probably inspires some young individuals to think about their impact on the climate. We're progressively moving forward, finding the baseline position here at North Northamptonshire, and we will continue to do so, and I would engage and encourage that the climate conference continues throughout the coming years. It's a great tool to use to advertise what we're doing.
Thank you. Question 15. Councillor Fedorovich, do you have a supplementary question?
Yes, thank you, Chair. What engagement with the KLV campaign group has taken place to get their input on this report and ongoing plan, and have they been made aware of these meetings and this time frame so they can come and speak if they wish? Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Helen Howell.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for your supplementary question, Councillor Fedorovich. The KLV support group have not been in contact with this council at all. The paper is in its readiness now to go to, as it states quite clearly in the response, to the Place and Environment Scrutiny Committee, which is a public meeting, and they are able to attend that meeting and able to speak at that meeting should they wish to. The consultation paper was done by an external consultant, so it's their findings. That there's no feeding into that. It's a report that they've produced and that we are then assessing. So by all means, we'd love if they want to come along to the scrutiny and then the executive meeting, they're more than welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. Question 16. May I please see Councillor Hakewell to answer any supplementary question?
Yes, Chairman. When will the proposals to be considered by the Joint Shared Services Committee be subject to scrutiny, equally involving library staff and users? So when will there be scrutiny? My understanding is the Shared Services Committee is just 6 councillors. When will there be scrutiny on the library proposals?
Thank you. Councillor Helen Howell.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chairman, and thank you, Councillor Hakewell, for your supplementary question. At this time, there are no proposals coming forward, so until we know what is coming forward and when, at that point, then there will be an opportunity for members to call it in following the decision that might be made by the Joint Shared Services Committee. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Hakewell, so it's question 17. Councillor Hakewell, do you have a supplementary question?
Thank you, Chairman. By my reckoning, the residents of East Northamptonshire received £230,000 back as a rebate. Residents of Kettering, Wellingborough and Corby still pay for their green waste to be collected within the harmonised North Northamptonshire council tax. When will residents of Kettering, Corby and Wellingborough get their rebate? Because we're still paying it in the harmonised. So when will we get our rebate?
Thank you. Councillor Matt Binley.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Sorry, I'm quite perplexed by the follow-up question. So I think, of course, it's important to note that I think people are confusing the harmonisation bit in the fact that who was paying what, where and when. I think we have to look at this in the fact that over 85% of councils in the UK are charging for the collection of green waste. You can shake your head all you like, Madam Chair. I don't know what Councillor Hakewell is concerned about, but over 85% of councils in the UK are charging for the collection of green waste. That includes councils that are Labour run, Conservative run, even Green Party run, Madam Chair. So, you know, the fact that all of those people are charging for green waste means that we're not doing anything unusual. And the other thing that I would add to it is the fact that we are one of the cheapest councils for charging for green waste in the country. There are councils that are charging up to and over £100 for the collection of green waste. We are nowhere near that. All we have to do is look across the border at some of our neighbours and how much cheaper we are than them. So I think we've done this in a very fair, very reasonable manner to not overly burden any of the residents in Northamptonshire. And I think it was right and proper to do what we did do with regards to those loyal customers over in East Northants.
Thank you. So,
I don't think we can do a point.
A point of personal clarification. Lovely speech, but I asked, when are those residents of the other councils going to get their rebate?
no, I think we will continue to the final question. Councillor Hakewell, do you have a supplementary question?
Thank you, Chairman. It's difficult to do a supplementary question when the first one wasn't answered. Scheduling meetings and scheduling a date, my question was, when do we expect an LGA Corporate Peer Challenge team to be on site? Let's have an answer.
Thank you. Councillor Smithers?
Temptation to say late summer's overwhelming, Councillor Hakewell, because it's in the answer. But hey, I won't do that because obviously that wouldn't be right. You're an experienced LGA peer. You know how long these things take. I was at the LGA executive meeting today talking to some of the peer reviewers as well, which was very interesting. Obviously, they're doing a lot of work up and down the country, and you know, it's very welcomed work. But you know, as per the question here and as per the answer, we're going to be having a conversation late summer, and we will update you as soon as we know what the date is, and as soon as the LGA can fit us in.
Okay.
As I say, we'll update you, Councillor Hakewell.
Yeah, thank you, councillors. That concludes all the questions. There are no urgent items of business on this occasion, so we will move to closing the meeting. Thank you, councillors.